The 2013 Los Angeles Lakers had high expectations. In the previous season, the Lakers got eliminated in the conference semifinals by the young, up-and-coming OKC Thunder. Their championship roster was starting to decline and they weren't getting any younger. The Thunder ran them off the floor, and it was clear that they needed more athleticism and defense in the backcourt. So, what do? They signed the oldest, least athletic point guard in the NBA. Alright, that's a bit harsh, but you get the idea. Even though Nash was still an elite playmaker in his last few seasons in Phoenix, it didn't solve any of the Lakers' problems. A couple weeks later, and the Lakers acquired Dwight Howard, the best center in the league, forming their new Superteam. And of course, championship aspirations were on the horizon. The Lakers were back in the conversation, and along with OKC, they were supposed to be at the top of the West. Preseason predictions had them winning over 60 games or close to it. Unfortunately, as we all know, it didn't work out too well, and that was because of a couple of different reasons. First, it was the injuries. Howard had back surgery in April of 2012, and he wasn't expected to make a full recovery until December. Throughout the course of the season, it was obvious that something was bothering Howard. The fans were blaming him for the team's problems, which is reasonable. Even though Howard was not bad statistically, as he still put up 17 and 12 and hit 58% of his shots. But he did look pretty bad from the eye test. The slow rotations on defense, his inability to bully people in the post like what he did in Orlando, and his awful free throw shooting, which dropped from 59% in Orlando to 49% in LA. With all that being said though, the truth is, he was just never healthy. According to a report, Dwight showed the photo of what happened when he got back surgery. The massive lump that came out of his back was described as an elongated piece of chicken fat, a yellowish white mass laid out next to a ruler measuring approximately 5.5 inches. Howard said, "Yeah, that was the part on my nerve that they had to pull out." At the end of the season, Meta World Peace said, "It was pretty nasty. I don't know how the hell he played. If he showed you the picture of that thing that came out of his back, the general public would take back all of the comments they made about him." Even with Howard's injury, he still managed to play 76 games. Nash, on the other hand, also had tightness in his back. It was his 17th season, and he was 38 years old. In the second game of the season, he fractured his leg and missed 2 months. Nearing the end of the season, he missed the final 8 games and the first 2 games of the playoffs because of a hamstring injury. Gasol had a concussion and a foot injury too, and Kobe tore his Achilles near the end of the season, so he missed the playoffs. Their Big Four missed a combined total of 75 games in the regular season. So yeah, they just never had the time to develop the chemistry. Secondly, the team just didn't mesh well when they did play together. Their starting lineup of Kobe, Nash, Meta World Peace, Gasol, and Howard had a net rating of plus 3.3 per 100 possessions. In fact, out of every other lineup that played at least 100 minutes together, that was only the 5th best one. With Earl Clark instead of Pau Gasol, they were a plus 3.8. With Steve Blake instead of Steve Nash, they were plus 16.3. With Antoine Jamison instead of Gasol, they were plus 19.7. And with Jody Meeks instead of Gasol, they were plus 31.6. You see a pattern here, right? Yeah, Gasol had trouble fitting in. Initially, Mike Brown was the coach, but after going 0-8 in the preseason and 1-4 in the regular season, he got fired. The Princeton offense he was trying to implement was a good idea. It was very similar to the triangle, and the Lakers had the personnel to run it. But because of the injuries and players not being healthy during training camp, they couldn't get used to it fast enough, and there was no time to waste. So they hired Mike D'Antoni, an offensive genius, but Gasol was the odd man out. His slow-paced, post-up style was not what D'Antoni wanted him to do. Instead, he was forced into being a kind of a stretch 4, which was very uncomfortable for him. Long story short, they didn't have a good relationship. D'Antoni criticized Pau's efforts multiple times and said that he needed to accept his new role. But Pau felt like he should play through the post more. Although he did show very little effort sometimes, D'Antoni should get part of the blame too. Sometimes the coach has to be flexible and adapt to their players' skill sets, and Pau was one of the most efficient post scorers in the league. He even got benched multiple times. As a result, Pau had the worst season of his career, averaging career lows in points and shooting efficiency. Either way, I don't think D'Antoni's fast-paced offense fit very well with this roster of aging players. Nowadays, he's a lot better as a coach, but back then, a lot of times he didn't want to make adjustments. The chemistry issues were apparent with Nash and Howard as well. Howard didn't like to run pick and rolls with one of the best passers of all time, which is kinda crazy. And this brings me to the third issue. Everyone on the team had to adjust and change the way they played. Even Kobe. He ran more pick and rolls as the ball handler than any other season of his career, and also had a lot fewer isolation plays, which he's known for. Nash had to spend a lot of time playing as an off-ball shooter and cutter, kinda similar to a Klay Thompson role, which he was obviously not used to. Gasol went from being a top post-up scorer in the previous 2 seasons to just 27th in the league with 2.7 points per game from post-ups. I mentioned earlier that he was also shooting a lot more mid-range shots. 27% of his total field goal attempts came between 16 feet and the 3-point line, which was a career high at the time. Howard probably had to change his game the least because he was still getting a lot of post-ups like in Orlando, but the problem was he was very ineffective. But yeah, that was the major issue. Every time a super team is created, somebody has to sacrifice and everybody has to change up their playstyle for the better of the team. Unfortunately, the combination of injuries, age, rigid coaching, and the inability of the players to adapt caused the Lakers to struggle the entire season. By March, they were still fighting for a playoff spot. It was a bit controversial because in a lot of games, many fans pointed out that the refs were favoring the Lakers, helping them make the playoffs. In some games, it was blatantly obvious too, which was kinda funny. Regardless, because Kobe tore his Achilles near the end of the season, it was pretty much over. They got swept in the first round by the Spurs, and that concluded the most disappointing season in Lakers history. The aftermath of this season went as expected. Howard left the Lakers because he never got along with Kobe. They had completely different personalities. Nash was still struggling to recover from injuries, and Pau had a bounce-back season, but then joined the Spurs a year later. Kobe never successfully recovered from his Achilles injury. Oh, and there's a funny thing I gotta mention. The Lakers received Nash in a sign-and-trade where they sent 4 future protected picks to the Suns, and the Suns sent one of those picks to the Sixers. That's why the Sixers had the Lakers' 2018 first-round pick, which landed at number 10. Alright, that's all folks. What does everyone think of this Lakers super team? Was it doomed to fail from the start, even without the injuries? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.